record to the computer because that's what I do. All right, so it's recording to the. Oh, I saw a little one. um, so we're in Revelations chapter 12, and it's a very, very significant chapter. It's a very, very significant chapter, and I will trust God for the bringing those things together in this. Okay, so I'm going to step back a verse from Revelation chapter 11, and I'm going to read into 12, okay? Because 11 is connected to 12 in that 11 ended with this big scene where the seventh angel had sounded, and the 24 elders are going forth in this song and saying what time it is. Time for time of the dead, that they should be judged, that you should reward your servants, the prophets and the saints. And they're saying that there is this time. And I said that I can't tell you I know what that means, but I know it's not here for a reason. It's not out of place. And it could be, I think I presented that I believe that it could be like when you have a program and you see, okay, and so here's what follows. That they could have been announcing, okay, so this is what's following. So, in chapter 11, verse 19, it says, Then the temple of God was opened in heaven, and the ark of his covenant was seen in his temple. And there were lightnings, noises, thunderings, an earthquake, and great hail. Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head was a garland of 12 stars. Then, being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. I know I said I was going to read the whole thing, but I do think I need to stop because I have too many explanations I have to give in the section. Okay, so here the temple of God is opened in heaven, and here this scene, well, a great sign appears. And I'm taking it as it is when the temple of God was opened in heaven, this was the sign in the heavens that was seen. That is how I'm taking this. And so we see a woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet. So the sun is considered the greater light and the moon the lesser light. And on her head was the garland of 12 stars. And those stars represent the 12 tribes of Israel. So the woman as a whole, the stars on her head, she represents the tribes of Israel. This is how it is understood. This is what the imagery and things like that reflect. So then it speaks about then being with child, she carried out in labor and in pain to give birth. So understand this, that the prophets told Israel what was becoming. Okay, I'm sorry. Now I do feel like I need to mute my phone because it's disturbing me. Where's my do not disturb? On. Okay. All right. Now I'm cooking with grease. All right. Okay, so the child, the prophecies that had gone forth from the prophets was that there will be a child born. Okay, it will be of the line of David, and so David is of the tribe of Judah. But I'm just saying that these are things that have been said. So when it spoke of the child, it was talking about the Messiah. And we'll see some scripture references to that in a moment. So then in verse 3, 12 and 3, it says, And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon, you can just say Satan, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 diadems on his head. His tail drew a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was ready to give birth to devour her child as soon as it was born. Okay, so these things reflect history, the history of Israel, and what was to come from Israel, and the coming of the Messiah, and also concerning Satan and deceiving those that were under his rank. And so all of those things are part of the history. So he was anticipating, because from the beginning in Genesis, God said that the seed of the woman, let me go there. You all can see how many markers I have in my Bible. I can get to this. Genesis, what? Chapter 3. 3 and 15, God said to the serpent, I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. And that word seed is capital. There's a capital S, because it's in reference to the coming Messiah. So there's always been the anticipation. Satan has always known there was going to be a seed born. And whenever he thought that that seed was it, he tried to kill it. He killed Abel. He tried to kill Moses. Anytime there was the potential, he was always trying to be there to kill it. Okay, so it says, of course, here that's exactly what he's trying to do. He was trying to anticipate this child coming. So then in verse 5 it says, she bore a male child who was to rule all nations with an iron rod, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. Now the information that was given in these two verses give us indication that we're talking about Jesus. But I also want to bring our attention to a couple of other scriptures that anticipated his coming that also are reflected. So she says she bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod. So if we go to Isaiah chapter 9. Isaiah chapter 9. And we're looking at verses 6 through 7a. It says, for unto us a child is born, and unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulders. And his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end, upon the throne of David and over his kingdom. Okay, so that's where we're going to stop on that. So this is a prophet that was speaking of the future coming of Christ. And here in Revelation is referring to it historically as happening because this child was born. And also let's look at Psalm chapter 2. And Psalm chapter 2 is about Christ, the coming king. So it's about a future event and the arrival of the king, the second advent. So even though I have a reference just to read two of those verses, I really want to start from verse 1 and go all the way through to 8. So it says, why do the nations rage, and why do people plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bonds in pieces and cast away their cords from us. The cords are in reference to breaking away from the Creator. You know, the navel cord is attached to the mother, and so they're trying to separate themselves from the Creator, and that is what is currently going on right now. And this is currently the plot. It has been the plot, but now we're coming to a culmination, because as I said, Psalms chapter 2 is about the second coming of Christ. So it is again, describing events leading up to his coming. So then verse 4, Psalms 2 and 4 says, he who sits in heaven shall laugh. So this is how God thinks about your dumb plan. The Lord shall hold them in derision. Then he shall speak to them in his wrath and distress them in his deep displeasure. Yet, and this is what the Lord who sits in heaven is saying, yet I have set my king on my holy hill of Zion. I will declare and decree, the Lord has said to me, you are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will give you the nations for your inheritance, and the ends of the earth for your possession. And then verse 9, you shall break them with a rod of iron. There is the reference that we were just seeing here in Revelation concerning this child. So if we go back to Revelation chapter 12, verse 5, it says, she bore a male child who was to rule all nations, ask for the nations, okay, with an iron rod, with a rod of iron, okay? So we are talking about Jesus, we're talking about his Christ, and this is a part of what he is to do. And so then it says, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. So we know when we read in the Gospels about Jesus, when he came and he completed the work for his first advent, to allow us to be reconnected in fellowship with God. It says that after after he died and he rose and he showed himself to his disciples and he was with them for 40 days, these things happened. And then it talks about them gazing as Jesus went up, and the angel said, why do you stand here gazing? So he did ascend to the throne, and where he sits on the right hand of God. Okay, so then we get to anybody have any questions so far? Okay, we get to verse 6, and it says, then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God. I mentioned this in the message on Sunday. A place prepared by God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. I circled they, but I didn't put an indication there. So she fled to a place that God prepared, where they should feed her 1,260 days, and that is 3.4 years. Okay, so I'm going to say more about this verse because she still represents Israel, and there clearly is a time in which the woman has to flee, where the children of Israel, the tribes of Israel, will flee because the devil will seek them out. Now remember, we're dead smack in the middle of the book of Revelations. We're in the time of tribulation. This stuff isn't, the first part is a part of history, but now this part, the part that remains, starts with verse 6. This is going to happen. Okay? It has not happened. It is going to happen. So then it says, and a war broke out, verse 7, in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Then I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now don't forget, they were in the temple opened up, the heavens opened up, and they're seeing this. Okay, so it's like a movie clip. Okay, so again, where was I? Okay, then I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brethren, who accused them before our God day and night, has been cast down. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives unto death. Let's pause there. So, I'm not trying to be complicated here, but you see that there was a transition in who was being discussed, because we saw a fight break out in heaven, and then it says, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. We're familiar with that verse. And so they're clearly talking about the saints. But do you see the saints in here? Did you see them anywhere? Okay. So, and they did not love their lives unto death. So let's look at where the saints have been spoken of concerning this time. We're just going to look a couple of chapters back. So we're first going to look at Revelation 6, 9 through 11. So definitely what has just happened that we just read is related to this statement. Yeah, chapter 6, verse 9 through 11. When he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? Then a white robe was given to each of them, and it was said to them that they should rest a little while longer until both the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who would be killed as they were was completed. So we are talking about martyrs here in verse 11. It is talking about martyrs because it says that they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives to the death. Okay, so another reference to this description of people is in Revelation chapter 7, verse 14. And it says, and I said to him, sir, you know, because well, let's go back to the question. Who are these, in verse 13, part B, who are these arrayed in white robes? And where did they come from? So we had just read in chapter 6 that they had the white robes on. And and he said to him, sir, you know. So he said to me, these are the ones who come out of the great tribulation and washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Okay? So they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony, and did not love their lives unto death. And so, this right now is a spontaneous thought, but we had read in chapter 11 when the seventh angel sounded the trumpet and the elders were singing, and they said, the nations were angry. This is verse 18, 11 and 18. The nations were angry, and your wrath has come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and you should reward your servants and the prophets and the saints, and those who fear your name, small and great, and should destroy those who destroy the earth. So I'm saying that here we have this scene where the seventh angel has sounded. They're here, they're observing in heaven. The temple of God is opened, and they're seeing these things. It's all a part of of what's happening. All of this is a part of what's happening, because this is what they're seeing after the elders sang their song. Okay, or were they singing it, or were they just speaking it? They worshiped, saying. Okay, so after the elders are saying this, these are the scenes that are played out. This is what is the response, in response to what was happening in that moment. So again, there's something to be said about those who to this point have gone through and have suffered through some things, because now their name is being brought up. He said in a little while, I'm not saying that is concluded, but he's definitely mentioning those who had been martyred at this point. He's mentioning them. And then in verse 12 and 12, it says, therefore, okay, rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows that his time, that he has a short time. So as I said, this fight hasn't happened. It has not happened yet. We think that come on, let's get real. How many of y'all really thought that Satan went and knocked on the door of heaven and brought a fight to heaven? I'm just sitting there. How did you get past the guards? I'm being funny right now, but there is a war that's going to break out it's not heaven, but understand their dimensions. Okay, so in the dimension that he is in, there will be a fight. And I believe that Celestial has talked about that. She was shown it in a dream, and she was saying that at the time that she gave this word, it hadn't begun to happen yet, but very soon after that, it began to happen, and it continues to happen to this day. And that is the beautiful skies with all the beautiful colors. And she said that the Lord said every time you saw that, the sign in the heavens, it was the sign of the nearness of the evil that is coming to the earth. They are producing the colors. They are announcing their coming. So everybody's just like, this is so beautiful. Oh, look at how God has made the beautiful. That's if you're looking at the aurora that doesn't belong in your area, that is not God. That is the enemy. And he's telling you, I'm coming. We're near here. Okay. So there is a time where there's going to be an opening of the realm, a crack of the realm, however it's going to open, and they will make it to the earth. So she talked about there being a battle, and they were tossed out from the realm where they were in, and then they would be on the earth. And that sounds weird, because you figure if people are dealing with the demonic, aren't they dealing with the demonic in the earth? But we don't understand how dimensions work, because they're not here. They're operating, they're taking highways, spiritual highways and stuff like that to do particular things. But there seems to be a distinction of them being out of the realm that they are in and here on the earth. As a matter of fact, another way that Celestial said it, she says, demons that you've never been able to see, you will be able to see them, because they'll be here. So it's almost like the difference. When someone says, when Denise says, did anybody see that? Did anybody see the angels? And I'm like, it was in the spirit realm. If it were in the natural realm, we would have all seen it. Okay, so she was saying it's going to move from being in a realm where only certain ones can see and discern it, to being in the earth, alive, and staring you in the face. So there is something very distinct that is going to happen and their being kicked out is not from heaven, it's from a realm of heaven. Okay, so there are a number of heavens. So, yeah, he'll know it's time, and I'm going to read something from the revelation of Elijah that's going to acknowledge this event. Okay. So then in verse 13, 12 and 13, it says, "Now when the dragon saw that he had been cast to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child." And this is a really interesting thing, because in verse 6, it says that the woman fled to a place that God prepared. And then by the time you get to 13, after the fight, it says that he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. So he persecuted Israel, okay? But the woman was given, and you know what? I'm sorry. Sometimes, even though I've read something, I don't remember where I'm going. And I stop short of my own answer. But here in verse 14 it says, "But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly to the wilderness, to her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and a half a time from the presence of the serpent." Okay, so the time and times and a half a time is that 3.5 years period of time. So there's a lot I want to say.
Hey, Tracy.
Yeah.
It's interesting because in the Amplified Classic version, it doesn't say persecuted there. It says that he went in pursuit of the woman.
So it makes sense, because I'm like, okay, that's so. Then when you read verse 14, so then he turned and he pursued, but he didn't
Right.
catch him.
So he wanted to, so I don't know. Because the King James and the New King James both say persecuted. But in the Amplified Classic, it just said he went in pursuit of the woman who had given birth to the male child.
So in any case, something happened. And it seems, even if it did say he persecuted, it says but. So for me, even though the New King James Version says that he persecuted, it says but the woman was given to. So that says there was an attempt, but that's how I would say that. I could see that both could be said with that in mind. So she went to fly to the wilderness, to a place where she is nourished for times and times a time from the presence of the serpent. So the serpent spewed water out of his mouth like a flood. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I have all these references. Okay. So I need to start reading some of my references in regards to this. So is this Revelation of Elijah? I do believe so. Chapter 5. Yeah. 2, 4, 6. Okay. So let me just start reading. So here, in the book of the Revelation of Elijah, he was shown future events. And so there were some things that he was shown that I see as relating directly to what we are reading in chapter 12. So it says, "On that day, the heart of many will be hardened, and they will flee from him, saying, 'This is not the Christ.' The Christ does not kill the righteous." So, and what you don't know that was read is, once the beast reveals himself and everything shifts to evil, because at first everything's going to look like peace and safety for a moment. We're going to have bad times, and then he's going to make an offer, and it's going to look like it's an answer, and then it's going to be a turn and a switch. And when that turn and switch happens and he began to kill folks, okay, that's what this is talking about. That people are going to recognize this. The Christ does not kill the righteous. He does not pursue men so that he might seek them, but he persuades them with signs and wonders. So then it says, on that day, Christ will pity those who are his own. Okay. And he will send from heaven his 64,000 messengers, each of whom have 6 wings. The sound will move the heavens and the earth when they give praise and glory. Now those on whose forehead the name of Christ is written, and on those whose hand is the seal, both small and great, will be taken up on their wings and lifted up before his wrath. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so let me pause there. Okay, because I had said to you all earlier in the book of Revelation, there was the 144,000 that was sealed. It's true. But what I was showing you is that scriptures about the judgments of God has shown whenever the judgment comes, he sets apart people who have cried out against the sin and the terrible things that were happening. As specifically, I gave a reference to an account whereby there was a messenger with an inkwell that the Lord told that before the judgment falls to mark the heads of those who were crying out against the injustice. And that when he did that, he said, do not kill them, preserve them. But the people who are not sealed, take them out. Okay, there was a very specific assignment to that messenger when we read that. And I was saying to you, there are several references to not just the 144,000 sealed, but those that God preserved because they were the righteous in a time where judgment was fallen. Okay, so in the book of Elijah, he saw this time and he saw that there were those that were sealed. Not the 144,000. He says small and great, as young and old. Okay, that bore this seal and they were being protected. And so this is part of the reason why I'm reading this, because this is what we have. This is what we were just reading here in chapter 12. Okay, he says, then Gabriel and Uriel will become a pillar of light leading them into the Holy Land. It will be granted to them to eat from the tree of life. They will wear white garments, and messengers will watch over them. They will not hunger, they will not thirst, nor will the son of lawlessness be able to prevail over them. So we were just reading, again, you saw what we were just reading. And on that day, the earth will be disturbed, and the sun will be darkened, and peace will be removed from the earth. The birds will fall on the earth dead. The earth will be dry. The waters of the sea will dry up. The sinners will groan on the earth, saying, what have you done to us, O son of lawlessness? Saying, I am the Christ, when you are the devil. You are unable to save yourself so that you might save us. You produced signs in our presence until you alienated us from the Christ who created us. Woe to us because we listened to you. Behold, now we will die in a famine. Where indeed is now the trace of the righteous one? Where indeed is now the trace of a righteous one, and we will worship him? Or where indeed is the one who will teach us, and we will appeal to him? Now indeed we will be wrathfully destroyed because we disobeyed the Lord. We went to the deep places of the sea, and we did not find water. We dug in the rivers and the papyrus reeds, and we did not find water. Then on that day, the shameless one will speak, saying, Woe to me, because my time has passed by me, for while I was saying that my time would not pass by. I'm sorry, let me read that again. Woe to me, because my time has passed by for me, while I was saying that my time would not pass by for me. My years became months, and my days have passed away as dust passes away. Now therefore I will perish together with you. Now therefore run forth to the desert. Seize the robbers and kill them. Bring up the saints, for because of them the earth yields fruit. For because of them the sun shines on the earth. For because of them the dew will come on the earth. The sinners will weep, saying, you made us hostile to the Lord. So let me pause and explain something here, because there's a back and forth going on. What he was saying is, as long as God's chosen was present, there was water, there was food, there were these things, but now they are missing. Okay, so I'm trying to get you all to understand why I am reading what Elijah is saying. Even though things aren't being said word for word, everything that is implied in chapter 12 is actually being said in chapter 5 from Elijah. He's just providing the conversation that takes place, the other details that's taking place. But there certainly is a people that is preserved, that is marked, that is removed, and they now have to deal with the wrath that now is being poured out on them now that we're not in that space. This is not the rapture. This is not the end of tribulation. This is in the midst of. Okay, so whatever this place, the wilderness, what did it read in 12 and 14? But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, and she might fly to the wilderness, to her place, where she is nourished for a time from the presence of the enemy. So she's nourished, she's provided for. Okay, so there's definitely something happened there. And in Elijah's account, he talks about that being angels that God sends out to go get them and bring them to this place of safety. Okay. So then he says, this is in the Revelation of Elijah, chapter 5, verse 20. Then he will take his fiery wings and fly out after the saints. He will fight with them again. The messengers will hear and come down. They will fight with him a battle of many swords. It will come to pass on that day that the Lord will hear and command the heaven and the earth with great wrath, and they will send forth fire, and the fire will prevail over the earth. It will consume the sinners and the devils like stubble. A true judgment will occur. On that day, the mountains of the earth will utter speech. The byways will speak with one another, saying, have you heard today the voice of a man who walks, who has not come to the judgment of the Son of the Lord? So now the rocks will start talking. Is there anybody that's not suffering judgment? Have you seen any man that is not suffering? That is what it said. Y'all think that the earth doesn't talk? It certainly does, because it told on Cain. It said the voice of the voice of your blood was crying from the earth. The earth definitely speaks, whether we understand its language or not. This isn't poetic. This is literal. So that's where I'll stop reading from Elijah. Okay, and I'll finish out what it says here in chapter 12. I'll start with 12 and 16. I'll read 16 again. Oh, do I have something else? Wait. 2 Baruch 6. Baruch says some stuff too. Oh my goodness. I'm just like, Jesus. 6. Where you at? Oh, okay. I can't. It's too deep. I'd be taking you all into some places, but there's some good stuff there. But it's just there are references I just didn't get a chance to research because it was fresh in my head when I had it 2 weeks ago, and now I'm had to reacquaint myself. But since I've got plenty, I'm gonna pause there. So let's do 12 and 16. It says, "But the earth helped the woman." And that's a beautiful thing. The earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the flood. Okay, did I read 15? The serpent spewed out water? Okay. Okay, so it swallowed up the flood which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to make war with the rest of her offspring who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. So I don't know exactly who the others are except to say the Gentile believers. But there's something else that God said about that hiding place that incorporated even those who were Gentiles. So I am not of those who have the end timeline thing planted down, because since God has turned all of that on its head, we are just walking forward and let God show us more. Okay, so even though I may not be perfected in how I'm communicating what I'm communicating, I hope that that in what God is doing, He's still awakening you to know there is other things to anticipate that man doesn't know about unless the Holy Spirit revealed it to them. And I know that I have read either in Ezra or Enoch that he said that in that time, when we come close to the time, he said he's going to begin to open up revelation and begin to tell them the things that they have not known. So that is exactly what's happening. The problem is what is being made known, it completely, one, people don't have a grid for what it is. But two, the devil has done such a good job of planting himself, the spirit of this world, planting itself in our thinking and pattern of life, that in order to embrace what God is revealing, it would disrupt your life entirely too much. And so, but God said, way back before the first flood, okay, or for the flood, He said, when this hour comes, I'm going to open it up more. Now, we've read several passages where God said, and seal the books. So that God seals stuff up for a time. And when the time comes, He opens the book, He reveals it to His prophets, and His prophets begin to say what God is saying. Okay, and so when other people who hear the prophets say the things that they're saying, they're like, it's not in the Bible. I understand that. I'm going to need you to go get on your knees and pray and ask God, reveal the truth to me. Because that very thing, and in many cases, it is the arrogance in the church that is keeping people from discovering the truth. Okay, because the 12 CD sect on the end times can be tossed into the garbage. And so that's a problem. It's a major problem when you invested so much of yourself in this based on the limits of information that you have. Okay. Woo-hoo. So, I'm sorry. I've got ants crawling. That's okay. So I read all the verses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now I want to let you hear some things that Celestial is going to say specifically concerning this. So she goes back over this. Now I gave you what my study revealed, and so she's going to give you the supernatural version of it. And she's going to start with the verse that I was giving you all in Psalm chapter 2. So let me see where my share button is. Share. Sound. And here we go. Okay, so she's going to start. She's on Revelation chapter 12. So she's going to start back in verse 5, and where she goes from there is just a short 15-minute trip. So let's do that.
In Psalms chapter 2. Psalms chapter 2, verse 7 to 9. I will declare the decree. The Lord has said to me, you are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will give you the nations for your inheritance, and the ends of the earth for your possession. You shall break them with a rod of iron. You shall dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel. And what is Psalm 2 about? Psalm 2 is about God's conversation with his son, asking, why do the nations get upset with me, God? Why do the nations move like the sea when it is upset? Why do the nations rage and imagine a vain thing? What is the vain thing that the nations are going to imagine? They're going to imagine, like the Tower of Babel they once came up with, that they can set up a kingdom unto themselves apart from God. Imagine wanting to use God's earth, God's natural resources, drink his water, live on his land, and then say that he is not to interfere as you set up your beast system. And it says that the Lord in heaven shall laugh and hold them in derision, and then he will speak to them in wrath and distress them with his deep displeasure or great anger. For God says, I have set up a king on my holy hill of Zion. So Jesus Christ is this one with a rod of iron with which he will shepherd. Shepherds usually carry rods of wood, but it says that Jesus Christ is going to come having a rod of iron. And I bet you that no soundtrack of Reckless Love will be playing in the background when he comes to set this earth in order. He is the one who, it says, this child was then caught up to heaven, to God and his throne. We already know where Jesus is. He ascended. The angels came and told them, this same Jesus that you have seen going up shall return to you in the same way. So it says then that the child being caught up to God, the woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared by God that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And this is where the Lord has instructed me to stop. The distance between verse 5 and verse 6 is a pause. And the way you can tell that is false Israel, true Israel, neither one has ever fled in the wilderness to do anything. Neither the imposters in the land of Palestine at the moment, nor God's people scattered all over the world right now, waiting for the regathering, have ever gone to any wilderness to sit there for 1,260 days being fed by some supernatural process. So after verse 5, the ascension of our Lord, who has not yet come back with his rod of iron, both the impostors and the true have continued living on this earth, waiting for the time and the season where verse 6 will kick off. Flights into the wilderness to a particular place, the scripture says, that God has prepared to be fed there supernaturally for 1,260 days. And so with that understanding, I will share just in a measured fashion. I have several dreams about this place and notes and things like that that God has given me. So, okay. So the first one is called the City of the Rock. The City of the Rock. God help me. August 27 and 2020. The Lord spoke to me in the early hours, telling me of going to the desert, to that spiritual city of Petra, a city of red rock is what he called it. A hidden city in the desert there of Saudi Arabia and Israel. I kept seeing flashes of me going out there with a group of people, a remnant, a holy people unto the Lord. I was with my own family, but multiples of people, others that I did not know. This city seemed like it existed between the dimensions, between this world and another world, for I kept seeing it appearing and disappearing between the high red rocks. And I was confused looking at it, doing so. From one angle, when you looked, there was nothing there. From another angle, when you looked, it had come back. And then you would look again, and there would be absolutely nothing there at all. There would just be these high red cliff walls, like goalposts, you know, the goalposts of the football field, just high upright cliff walls, like goalposts when you look from one angle. And then it would be like a hand turned the plain of the desert, and then bam, there it was, a whole city, but looking at it as if you see it through a lens. So if you turn the land this way, the city appeared. And if you turn the land this way, the city disappeared. And that's how I realized that this must be some kind of portal, or so it seemed. That is it. The City of the Rock, August 27, 2020. That is almost 5 years ago. And then I will, okay. Here's another one. This is from May 2022. I'm just waiting for the tablet to load. Okay. Here it is. The Revelation 12 woman is the desert fleeing woman. So I just described to you who the woman is. Revelation 12. This is Israel. So it was God who taught me this thing, that it is his actual people. And he said, the Revelation 12 woman is the desert fleeing woman, a great company that shall go into the wilderness for safety in the end times. This is not the second Exodus. This is the Revelation 12 woman who is removed for safety into a desert stronghold until she can recover and be saved. Petra is a revolving door between dimensions. The people will enter there and the door will shut. Petra exists in a rip through time. Once you go there, you cannot be found again until the time of the end when I come. And I'm going to leave it there. This is May 20, 2022. That is all I'm going to say. And so you can hear God saying that this is not the second Exodus. The second Exodus is going to be a very big and politicized thing. Okay. The second Exodus is not anything that somebody's going to make a YouTube video about and say this is a Hebrew Israelite doctrine. Just ignore these people. They're so angry at losing what they feel is their placement in the earth that there's nothing you can do to help them. Some people will always be small, and we pray for them and just hope that their angels will hold their hand until they catch up, if they do catch up. The regathering of Israel by nature, by what you can hear, it is the regathering of Israel. You can read about it, for instance, in Isaiah chapter 60. It's made very clear there. You read Isaiah chapter 60 and you can tell that this is going to be a big deal. This is going to be something that will actually happen on the news. It's not going to be something that is going to be happening in the back room where we have to debate it. Is it happening? Is it not happening? Israel is everywhere in the nations. And it basically says that they're going to be bringing the people back with carts. Now, none of us are actually going to get into a donkey cart. At least I know I won't. But when it says we'll bring your children back with carts and things like that, nations, when they realize that they're holding populations of true Israel, are going to participate in the same exercise that the UK and the United States and a few key partners tried to fake in 1948. And you saw what a big deal that was. I mean, maybe you didn't see it because you weren't alive, metaphorically speaking. It was a huge deal. It was touted everywhere. Look what we did. We helped Jesus fulfill his prophecy. Moi, moi, moi. Well, now the real thing is going to happen. And in the age of TikTok, social media, debates, podcasts, it's going to be massive. It's going to be the talk of the town. And you can see Mr. Putin already trying to kick it off by opening his coffers of the pictures of the ancient church, who did not look like the Mona Lisa. So I'm not creating these facts from here in Brooklyn. They're happening organically on the TV, and they're happening between now is the time. Do you know what it's like when God is ready to drive something? I mean, we've seen oxen, and in India they even put elephants to work. So you've seen an ox moving, right? You've seen a bull moving. You've seen an elephant moving. What do you think will happen when the Lord of hosts is moving something forward? Who's going to stop it? The second Exodus is going to be wildly televised, greatly talked about. You will see broadcast after broadcast. We just discovered a rare bloodline in David's house here and there. It's going to be spectacular. It's going to be big. It's going to be seen. This thing that I'm talking about, the wilderness fleeing, this is long after CNN exists to cover anything. This is after Satan has busted up the world until it is a craterous, horrible tumbleweed wasteland. This is when people are not plenty. Always remember in the Bible that it says that a man shall be more rare than the fine gold of Ophir. Ophir was a place where you really got the quality stuff when it comes to gold. So that means because it was rare, it means it's not common, it's hard to find. And then God is saying that even though gold from Ophir was hard to find, finding a living human being in those days will be even harder. This is Isaiah 13. So this wilderness fleeing, it's definitely not a large group of people. This is after many other prophetic events have happened. And now God's people are once again coming under, come here, dear Bible. They're once again coming under a terrible oppression that is going to arise against them in the end times. Because I always told you that Satan is never done. He's never done until God sits him down for good and says he's done. So that pause that I told you stopped at verse 6. It then says afterwards, and war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. But they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So that great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world, and he was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So you can see right here, if you're paying attention and the Holy Spirit is opening your eyes, that in verse 7, 8, and 9, it's telling you war broke out in heaven. Michael fought the dragon, and the dragons and his angels fought back, but they did not prevail. They could not keep their place in heaven any longer. And so they were cast out to the earth, and the angels were cast out with him. But in the beginning, when it first introduces Satan in verse 3, it tells you a great sign appeared in the heavens, whose tail drew a third of the stars down and threw them to the earth. So we already know that angels came down to the earth to pollute the line of men. We already know that. But Satan himself was not removed from the heaven altogether. We see that evil, revenge-like tail conning his brothers, fooling his brothers, culling them to fall from their high place. Because why should he be banished alone? He poisoned me and they followed him. But we know that Satan is still a prince of the power of the air. He still has access and moves about in the second heaven, not the third heaven, where Paul says that he went and he saw wonderful things there, but he was not going to speak about them. Satan is still very much an air power, a heavenly power. But now in the end times, a war will break out. This war has not yet happened. And I have been prophesying to you here many times that as the heavens are shaken and I see stars falling like figs from heaven, that is the war that will come. This is when the fallen will now come and be down here on the earth. A horrific, dangerous, humanity killing and destroying time. This is way past any struggle for who owns Israel and all of that. This is now end times for real. The rise of the 144 now that I told you will be battling these giants and things like that. And then in the early years, you used to look at me funny. This war will bring these beings down here. And this is why the angel cries out in verse 12. And he says, rejoice, heavens, and all of you who dwell in the heavens. That's not us. We're not heaven dwellers. Rejoice, heavens, all of you who dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has a short time. This is the time where they're going to be coming and mimicking voices and spoiling greatly among humanity, depleting humanity greatly. And what God says he's going to do is he's going to be keeping the woman and those who are of him safe in a place for 1,260 days. In a place that appears, disappears, appears, disappears. I have told you all the time here that the earth has dimensions, and we are living in the one that we have the atmosphere that we can breathe, the trees that give us the oxygen that we need, and we give them carbon dioxide, our sun and everything. And there are dimensions. And I said that when the dimensions start colliding, some of the signs that the Lord has shown here is that time would get faster. Time would start to get faster. Why? Because these CERN people, among many other things, it's not the CERN people who are just doing everything. CERN is just one of the things that's affecting and messing with time. One of the things that God says is also causing the day to fly faster. It's that he did say that for the sake of the elect, he would shorten the time. That is what is happening. Days are seeming to fly faster. Years are seeming to fly faster. It's not everything that the bad people are doing, okay? God is still sovereign over them. So if you've got them messing with time and space, affecting the days, but you've also got God's perfect and promised words, for the sake of the elect, I will shorten the time. Then you've got 2 time shorteners shortening the time, which is why you can't seem to get everything done that you want to. So that is just that. I hope you are understanding and with me until now. The last thing I'm going.
All right. Okay, so I know that the Chiefs have seen that particular clip before, if I'm correct. And I know that when I listened to it this time around, I heard something I didn't hear the last time. And it was the timeline about the Exodus happening before this time. That there's a hiding that is happening, but that will come after the Exodus. So the thing that has not been clear to me about the Exodus is was restated again here, because she speaks of the Exodus, and that that when the Exodus happened. Matter of fact, there's another video that I wanted to play for you. I won't play the whole thing. It's a man. I don't know this man. I know him from Adam, but I noticed that people have been dreaming about these times and these things. And so I was just going to play that. So let me, just give me just a little extra time this time around, so that I can. I sent myself a link. I sure did. I sent the link to myself, but move myself. Come on. What? Isn't it fantastic? Y'all gotta see my cousin. On the screen. Okay, let's see, where is she at? Terry. And I'm just going to play the first one. He had a couple of things he said, but what I'm trying to say about the what I'm trying to say about the Exodus, he mentions it. So gonna let him talk for a couple of minutes, and then I'll come back to close out here and answer any questions. Come on.
Stay in this country or not. If it was 2020 or 2019, I just remember seeing 2000, and it wasn't that far off from today's date, and this is June the 18th, 2019. So it wasn't that far off. They were casting a vote, and one of this white lady, and you could tell she was an evil old she was an evil old heifer. She says that America and the world would be a better place if they just put all these black people back in Africa where they got them from. And she basically said, we got our use out of them. We don't need them no more. There was a handful out of all of the white people in America and across the world, maybe 2% of all of them. They was like, that's crazy. If they gone, we don't have, nothing's worth nothing. Because they knew that we were the salt of the earth. We make everything safer. So the white man that was with her, he was like, well, I'm going to make sure it happened. Well, what happened is it was a worldwide thing that everyone who had melanin in their skin, how can I put it? They had this device where you walk through it and it could tell you how much melanin you had in your skin or if you had any in you at all. And they said you couldn't have any curl to your hair in order to stay. You just had to be like paint pretty much. So what was happening is a lot of those Europeans that didn't want us to go, they was trying to go with us. But the government wouldn't let them go with us. And the ones that was really trying to go with us and that was ridiculing them, they were being shot like in front of a firing squad. So we leave. This is worldwide, in China, everywhere. So now they getting what they asked for. Now we're all the armies got together and they had made, I guess, some kind of treaty to where the ships and stuff that we were on wouldn't be damaged. So I'm standing in this place and I see all my beautiful Hebrew Israelite people, and I see us, and I'm looking around, and it's just so many different shades of black, what they call black, and it was so beautiful. But then, since we were all gathered together, I just remember hearing this. It sounded like a shofar, but it was probably 10,000 times louder, and it won't like that. It was just, and when it blew, the earth began to shake, and we looked up in the sky, and I seen those colors. We're in this dream again. The sky turned all these different colors. It was beautiful, and I just remember seeing the sky folding back, like the clouds folding back, and I just remember these huge angels just came flying out of nowhere, because what happened is, in this treaty that they signed, what they was going to do is wait until we all got in the water out to sea, and they was getting ready to bomb us on these ships because they was sending us home. The Most High sent these angels, and these angels was protecting us, and they were mad. And so when we get to where we going, soon as the first people's feet hit the sand of Akabulan, soon as their feet hit the ground, I mean, when I say total, utter chaos, it was missiles flying over our heads, but it was like we were under this protective dome like the firmament, and they couldn't, because we was all gathered in one place. I don't know where it was. This land that we went to, no human had ever set foot there. This wasn't none of the continents that we know of. It's nowhere where the heathens have been. All I know is when we got there, I could smell honeysuckle and all these flowers in the air. You could smell frankincense. You could smell myrrh in the air, cedar, wood. It was all kind of animals everywhere. And it was lions and like tigers and leopards and panthers, and it was animals we had never seen before that these white people say are extinct, and they're not. But we were walking past these animals, and they were like house cats. They were like house cats. It was amazing. So we were thirsty. When we would stick our hand in the water was warm. But when we would bring it up to drink, it would be cool when we would drink it down, and it was sweet. And soon as we got to this land where we were going, all of a sudden, that's when I seen the missiles. It was like these countries was fighting against each other. They was fighting, and one of the guys from America, he says, we should have let them effing niggers go. We should have just kept them here, and we would be safe, because he knew the reason why America hadn't been bombed by these other countries is because the children of the Most High was here. So it was one of those like surreal moments to where all of the people, the ones that believed already knew that was in the truth. We were happy. The other ones, they wasn't happy. They was happy being under the foot and thumb of these Europeans and these Gentile nations. And once they seen that going on, they were looking in awe, because they were like, they didn't know what was going on. And then it was just utter chaos. So here's the last dream, and I'm going to let y'all go. My daughter and I had the same dream about the same thing.
Nope. Oh, am I unmuted? Stop share. Okay. All right. So, again, reflecting on the fact that there are these events happening, and some things that people are seeing and experiencing are curiously like what we are hearing about. And I believe that, I don't know if this man is a Hebrew Israelite, whatever. He's talking about his dream. He's just sharing what his dream is. And so, or if he's just one like with Omar Tebow, where they understand, what I'm saying. I have no idea. And so, again, my point about these things is that I believe that there are things that are being shown, and if you don't have a context for it, you don't know what to do with it. You say what you see, but you don't know how it fits into anything. Okay. And so I know that by the time we get to chapter 12, there's a lot of things that have happened, because if you remember back in chapter 6, all kinds of pestilence and all these other things and other activities and things like that were already happening. There were things that were already happening. There were trumpets that were being blown. Okay, we got the 7 trumpets. You know what I'm saying? So a whole lot of stuff has happened. But in the midst of that, based on what Celestial was saying in this last video, in that time period though, there is going to be an acknowledgement of who we are. It's not going to happen. I have asked questions in my mind about, well, if that happens after the tribulation, how are they going to, how are they going to get support and send them money and send this, that, or how are they going to do that if they just went through hell and hot water and everything is destroyed? Like I had that question because I thought that what was an exodus was going to happen after the tribulation. There is the gathering together after the tribulation. It speaks about that there is something, but there's this thing that happens in chapter 12, and there's also something, again, when you're not hearing something firsthand or you don't have the fullness of the picture, you don't really know how it fits. It becomes parts of puzzle pieces. They fit in some kind of way. There are times when I used to read the scriptures and the scriptures seemed to contradict itself until I learned what I didn't know. And then I saw that wasn't a contradiction. So I'm not trying to present a bunch of contradictions. I'm telling everybody, though, there's a lot of things that are going on. The key is to be amongst the righteous, because in anybody's scenario and in any order of anything, the safest place is right there, smack dab in the will of God and following after him. And so in that regard, I know where my focus is, and again, I told you that in the midst of all these things we're reading in Revelation, I'm still trying to show you where God's promise is and where his help is and those types of things. I'm still trying to identify those things because it is important. It is not a hopeless situation. Our hope is in God. And so I'm seeing more than ever plenty of places where the Lord shows up and he is doing exactly what he said that he would do. He's faithful to his chosen, those that are of the tribe of Israel, and also those that are walking upright and will hear what the Spirit of God is saying to the churches in this hour. And I feel like some of the misfortune that is going to happen with some of the saints is the fact that they were not aware. They did not understand because they had this end time belief of things that just left them unprepared for what they were to face. Okay. So I don't intend to be of those. And as I've been sharing with you, you all aren't of those either if you are taking to heart not only the information, but positioning yourself in God. Okay, so that's what I have for tonight. Like I said, he goes into 2 other dreams. He talks some more about the Exodus and people coming, the angels. He keeps talking about these angels that come to get us at different points of time. And so I just didn't play the whole thing because I didn't want to, I knew we were already over time. So in any case, again, thank you very much for the extra time. I appreciate it. I think I lost Denise. But nonetheless, if you do have any further questions that come up after the fact, if you want to shoot the questions to me, that's fine. If I'm able to answer it, I'll answer it then. If I feel like it's something that, hey, why don't we bring up the questions next week and let's start with the questions and then move forward from there. It just depends. So, like I said, I have more references from the Apocrypha because Baruch got a lot to say. He really does. So, that's all I have for tonight, though. And if I decide to pick,
I'm sorry, did you see Jasmine's comment?
No, I didn't. I did not see it.
I didn't think so.
So we got, okay. Okay, so here's what Jasmine is saying concerning her son's dream. She said, in his dream, the mountain started moving and a sleeping giant awoke and started walking towards us. My fiance had a dream about fighting giants, and I thought they were crazy until I started listening to Celestial. Uh huh. Yes. As the days of Noah, and we don't have the concept. We don't really understand what the days of Noah look like. We don't understand what it was they were looking at. But according to what I read in the Apocrypha, they were eating people. These giants were doing stuff because the food wasn't enough. They were trying to keep them fed. And it was like, well, we just eat you. It was bad. It was actually very bad. The people were really going through. There's just a lot of things happening. So
I think Enoch said that too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they were really going through that. Yes, there will be giants amongst all other things. There'll be all kinds of things. You know, when you see those little Egyptian bird people, you know, they'll be on the wall, they'll draw on the wall the bird head on a human body. I just thought it was some type of a god, that they were, recognizing and acknowledging and something like that, but no, I think it was Erica that was talking about there are birdmen. There are these things. And we haven't known what we've been staring at. And we've been made to believe that things were just myths and things like that, and not knowing that it was history that has been represented as myths and things like that. So there are many things there. So God is trying to. Oh,
Okay. No, I just wanted to make I don't know, something I wanted to say. I got the Apocrypha, and there was the Testament of Solomon, and I don't know if you ever had the time to read it, but I would love your interpretation on it.
The Testament of Solomon?
Yeah, there's a Testament of Solomon in there that I just was drawn to open up this page, and it was pretty much at the end. He was saying that he caged up a demon that's under the Temple Mount, and it got really. There's a lot of end time revelation information in there, and
he's not one of the ones that I have been led to read. I'm not going to say he's not here.
It's hard to find. It's tucked in there. I haven't read the whole thing, but it was getting intense. So you might find it interesting and find some connections.
Was it the Psalms of Solomon or
what? No, it was a Testament of Solomon. And
Testament of Solomon. I see it.
Oh, at the end, he goes into the end of the world, but then he's like, I made a big mistake sleeping with these women, doing stuff. I'm here to warn you guys. But what I found was, so there was a Native American prophecy about the four winds that's in the four corners in Arizona, being tied to the end time story. And after seeing the Omar information about how the natives are really all connected, light bulb went off. So I just felt to follow this ley line, and the four corners here in America, in Arizona, line up with Golgotha, where Christ was crucified. So I don't know. The Apocrypha is making a lot of other pieces that are just really fascinating, but I could barely understand the Solomon story when I first read it. So I'm gonna go on back again. Maybe I'll be able to understand it better.
Well, I have not read him yet. I've read many others. Some of them I know that they are messed with. There's some I have found that are messed with, and then there are others that are I don't know what your Apocrypha looks like, but like they'll have like a description or summary, and they'll say whether or not these were literature or writings from the time, not necessarily an account that was actually, so I since I haven't looked at it, I couldn't really respond. It does not look at, I was trying to look over the summary quickly while you were talking, and just the first few lines of it doesn't give indication that it is something that is kind of off. I just have.
She has the same one you do.
Huh?
She has the same one you do.
Okay, so it does. It has a little summary at the beginning. Because I read all the summaries, I read the summaries and I'm looking at something, especially if it's like, oh, I wonder if I want to read this one. Many times the Lord has spoken to me and told me what to read. So I read what he tells me to read.
Yeah, because we have to use our discretion because some people think some are and some aren't. So
Yes. So
I just,
I do consider the summary, but I pay more attention to what Holy Spirit is telling me to do. And
yeah,
so
so if
Holy
you feel drawn
Spirit,
to it, but I'm just saying that it had a lot of information that was very interesting.
yes, okay. Well, I will take a look at that and I will be able to respond to you when I do.
Yeah, if you think it feels authentic, but I don't know, Solomon had a lot of knowledge, but it's crazy how you can have all that knowledge and still make mistakes.
It's because that's a gift. Gifts can't save you. If your character, if you're not submitted to God, the gift that he gives you is just is being used by a vessel that is unclean. And so it can go any direction it wants to go. The only way that that vessel can go in the direction that God would have them to go is for the vessel to be yielded to God. So, that's why the gifts and callings are without repentance. He made you. He designed you a particular way, put particular things in you. He doesn't repent for that. But if you're not going to submit to him, then it's not going to come out like it needs to come out.
But be obedient.
Yes. Okay. But I will let you know when I have read that, Jasmine, and I will get back to you on that. Okay?
Thank you.
All right then, everyone. Good night.